friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily if you're new here. Today's video is going to be a fun video. I want to talk about the 10 books that I want to read over the autumn winter period that are off my physical TBR. So for me, autumn yells like classics, fantasy, like cozy, thriller, mysteries and horror. Like I love those sort of genres, specifically for like the colder months, like getting snuggled up with a blanket, getting enthralled into a deep story. Series, even like I have a few series, like start of series that I want to read throughout the season. So here in Australia we're currently in autumn and it is getting a little bit cooler in the mornings, but still during the day it's like 26 degrees, like still hot, but the weather is definitely starting to cool down, especially with like the nights and like the early mornings and things like that. So I'm really excited for the colder weather to come. Like I cannot wait for winter, to be honest. I have missed Japan weather because in February it was winter over there and it was delightful. Like Australian summer is like, it's horrific. It is horrific and I hate it and I cannot wait for the colder months. So I have 10 books that I want to talk about. There is literally a variety of genres here, from classics to fantasy to cozy fantasy, thriller and horror books. So these are also all of my physical TBR, as I want to focus more on my physical TBR this year. So these are books that I already own and that I have had on my shelf for a while. So I'm really excited to talk about these books in particular. As you can see, I'm wearing a robe just to kind of get in the vibes of like autumn winter. I bought this, like, what is it called, a dressing gown a few days ago and I've been wearing it like every night. It's so comfortable. So I thought it would be the perfect time to just put it on for a video. I don't even care. So comfort is key. But without further ado, I'm just going to get started and talk about the books that I have on my TBR for autumn and winter. First book on my TBR is Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is also a special Penguins, a classic edition that I got with a T2 tea order. So it came with like 3 tea flavors and my Dracula Frankenstein inspired mug, which I love and I use all the time. So obviously this is one of the most well-known classics. So this is about Count Dracula. So I have never read Dracula before. I have actually read Frankenstein. I read it last month and I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. So I have really high hopes for Dracula, more so than Frankenstein. I feel like I love a vampire classic story. Like I love watching the old vampire films, black and white films, like even the original Dracula movie I really enjoyed. So I have a really high hopes that I'm going to enjoy this. I also watched a video from Gavin's channel, Gavin Reads It All, and he did a reading vlog where he read Dracula and actually visited the town that Dracula's castle is in, and I thought that was so cool. So I want to read it. So this is what the back of this book says. Count Dracula's castle is a hellish world where night is day, pleasure is pain, and the blood of the innocent prized above all. Young Jonathan Harker approaches the gloomy gates with no idea what he is about to face. And back in England, eerie incidents are unfolding as strange puncture marks appear on a young woman's neck. But can Harker's fiancé be saved? And where is the evil Dracula? So I'm really excited to read this, and I actually really like this edition because the pages are floppy, so it's going to be a fun time to read. The next book on this TBR is actually a Grady Hendrix book, and that is Final Girl Support Group. I have had this on my TBR for years. I picked this up, like this was the first Grady Hendrix book that I picked up, but I've read almost all of his other novels except for this one, and there's another one with like a guitar pick on the cover. I forget what it's called, but those are the only 2 books that I have not read by Grady Hendrix, and I really enjoy Grady Hendrix writing. I just love his stories, and I've always had a really good experience reading Grady Hendrix, so I'm really excited to read this. I am a Final Girls girly. Well, I'm not actually, but I love watching movies about Final Girls. So I am really excited to read this. I know it's going to be maybe like, I hope it's a bit page turning. I like the suspense of Final Girls, but I know that this is like the Final Girls meet up and then they obviously just like go through counseling together, I'm pretty sure. But Final Girls by Riley Sager was a very big disappointment for me. I did not like it all that much, so I hope that Grady is a lot better. I know that Grady spins it more horror side than a thriller side. Like this is like pure horror and terror instead of like a murderer. sort of thing. So they're different final girls, but everyone is a final girl in this particular situation. So we're following Lynette Tarkington, survived a massacre 22 years ago and has defined every day of her life since. And she's not alone. For more than a decade, she's been meeting with 5 other final girls and their therapists in a support group for those who survived the unthinkable, putting their lives back together, piece by piece. That is until one of the women misses a meeting and Lynette's worst fears are realised. Someone knows about the group and is determined to take their lives apart again, piece by piece. But the thing about these final girls is that they have each other now. And no matter how bad the odds, how dark the night, how sharp the knife, they will never ever give up. I really like that actually little paragraph there. How dark the night, how sharp the knife. That's actually a good wordplay. I like that. So yes, I'm really excited to read Final Girl Support Group. This is definitely one that I am really excited to pick up. I then have The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This is one of my favorite authors. I mean, I have only read one other novel by Ashley Poston, which was The 7-Year Slip. That was my favorite read of last year. I literally bawled my eyes out multiple times reading that book. It was so close to my heart and I just loved it. I loved the writing, I loved the magic realism, I loved everything about the concept of that book. I could not fault it in the slightest. It was an infinity star read for me and I still think about it every single day. I'm not even exaggerating. So this is a different sort of, this is similar to The 7-Year Slip in terms of magic realism. There is magic realism throughout this novel. Basically, Florence Day is a ghostwriter with one big problem. She's supposed to be penning swoon-worthy novels for famous romance authors, but after a bad breakup, Florence no longer believes in love. And when her strict but undeniably hot new editor, Benji Andor, refuses to give her an extension on her book deadline, Florence prepares to kiss her career goodbye. When tragedy strikes and Florence has to head home, the last thing she expects is to see a ghost at her front door. Not just any ghost, however, but the stern form of her still very hot, yet now unquestionably dead, new editor. As the sparks start to fly between them, Florence tells herself she can't be falling for a ghost, even an infuriatingly sexy one. But can Benji help Florence to realise love isn't dead after all? So, like, this reminds me of, is it Heaven? Or is it Ghost? Is it the movie Ghost? I think it's the movie Ghost. And it was like that really like heartbreaking love story between them. I am just like in the apartment, literally so excited to read this. I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet. Like I freaking ate up The 7-Year Slip. I know I'm gonna love this. Well, I hope I do. But I haven't picked it up yet and I'm like kind of shocked that I haven't. But I will be picking it up in the next few months. So excited about this one. The next book on my TBR is of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is a classic. It follows Dorian Gray, who exchanges his soul for eternal youth and beauty, influenced by his friend Lord Henry Wotton. He is drawn into a corrupt double life, indulging his desires and secrets while remaining a gentleman in the eyes of polite society. Only his portrait bears the traces of his depravity. So we have someone who loves himself dearly, and I'm really intrigued to see what the hype about this classic is about, because I have heard amazing things about The Picture of Dorian Gray. I have heard that it is a lot of people's favorite classic, so I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. Although I know that, yeah, so it starts from like, there's a little bit that is all just pretty much timelines interesting about like each part itself, and then it actually starts, but it's again a floppy paperback, but the writing is tiny, so we'll see how long it takes me to read this, but I am really excited to read it nonetheless. Just get autumn vibes from this, so I'm excited to read it. Then we have The House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This has been on my TBR for like over a year now. I saw Crystal Sutherland's recent release. It really intrigued me. It was going to be my next Evernight subscription box, but I actually had to skip January's month, so I didn't get it. But it looks really good. Like it was culty, like witchy vibes. This one in particular is about, I think, a couple of sisters. This is like, so I know that The House of Hollow is it gives fairy tale-esque vibes, like dark fairy tale-esque vibes. I know the main character has 2 sisters and like weird things start happening pretty much all throughout their life. Weird things have happened, but this is like horror and grotesque elements that are meant to be interwoven into like a beautiful story at the same time. I don't know, I haven't read it, but I don't know. I've heard really great things about it though. Like a lot of my friends have rated this book 5 stars, so I feel like I'm going to love it. I just don't know why I haven't picked it up yet. It seems right up my alley. The next book on my TBR is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. I am not going to really talk about the series because I think everyone should know what Throne of Glass is, but I have not read Throne of Glass yet. This is the only series by Sarah J Maas that I have not read, and I have the entire series on my shelf, but I will be starting with Assassin's Blade. Do not come for me if that is not the reading order you read it in, but I will be reading The Assassin's Blade first and then Throne of Glass. So I'm really excited. I really cannot wait to read into Throne of Glass world, and I can't wait to see what the differences are between Sarah J Maas's writing then and in her more recent series. So I'm really excited. Like I said, this will be the first book I will be reading, and I also love these covers. I got the older covers before the newer ones were released, so I'm happy that I have the classic covers. Okay, the next book on my TBR, I have had this book on my multiple TBRs for like months, but that is Bunny by S.E. Tolson. This is a couple. S.E. Tolson is actually a couple, and they wrote this masterpiece. From a lot of the reviews that I have read, it is very scary. It is like Stolen Tongues scary, from what I've heard. It's like thriller, supernatural horror. So I know that the main character's name is Silas, and he has an aunt by the name of Aunt Bunny, and Aunt Bunny was deranged when he was younger, abusive, and I think that he ends up coming back to his home from when he was younger, and Aunt Bunny hasn't left, I think, and like weird things start happening. And I did read a couple of pages of this and then I put it down. It wasn't because like I wasn't vibing with it, it was just because I got slumpy and I just didn't feel like reading. But I don't know, I haven't picked it up yet again because it's like possession. It was just like, I'm so excited to read this, and I have heard amazing things about this book, so I will be reading it in the next few months. I will be reading it, I promise. I cannot wait to review this book because I feel like a lot of people obviously have not heard of it. They're Australian Kiwi based authors, and yeah, I don't think a lot of people have heard about this because I have quite a few American viewers on here. So if you love horror and thrillers into one, I'm pretty sure you'll love this, but I will let you guys know how I go with it. The next book is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This follows Emily Wilde, and she studies the folklore of this world, obviously, and I think there's like an academic rivalry. I don't know exactly. So yeah, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies is meant to be very whimsical and just like, you know, you're there with Emily and discovering all these fairies and the folklore of this world, and I just cannot wait to read this. For myself, I have been writing folklore and writing into fairies and like fauna and flora and things like that, like in my own novel. So like I cannot wait to read more about like the discovery of different folklore creatures, and it just sounds right on my alley. I don't know why I haven't read it yet. Like this book was so anticipated for me when I bought it, when it came out, but I don't know what it is about main characters' names being Emily. Like when I read about myself, like even though it's not about me, I just feel like when I read a main character's name Emily, I just kind of get like, oh, like, am I gonna like it? I don't know. But I'm really excited to read this. I am, and I can't wait to read it because the sequel's already out, and I know this is Ali's favorite book of last year, so we'll see. Last book on this TBR is a book that has been highly anticipated for me, and I love this author so much. I will read anything this author puts out. I don't know, it just hasn't been the time for me to pick it up yet, and I feel like waiting off a few more months to read it. I feel like reading this in like the wintry vibes is just going to be like more vibey for this sort of book. I read the prequel to this book in the summertime, and I could have read it any season, so I'm going to hold this one off for like a winter season. But that is The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black. So this is the sequel to The Stolen Heir, and this follows obviously Oak, and I know that The Prisoner's Throne has more of Carden and Jude in this book in particular, but I have heard that Surin isn't a massive part of this book, which is kind of disappointing because book one really focused on Surin and Oak's relationship, This gives me Sealy Court vibes, just like from the eeriness of like the atmosphere. So I'm like, is it going to be in the Sealy Court? Are we going to just see more political intrigue? I think this does have a lot more political intrigue than the first book. I'm not going to read it out because this is obviously the second book in the series, but I will be reading this in the next few months and I'm so excited about it. I just love Holy Black and I love this world of Elfame. I love Elfame with all my heart. I love the Cool Prince series. It is one of my favorite series of all time, so I cannot wait to read this book. Yes, that concludes this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments below what you'll be reading for like the autumn winter seasons, if you have a TBR, anything like that, or if you are on the other side of the world, what are your summer reading plans? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.